Hi guys, Mark Holthe here, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, coming to you live from my office here in Lethbridge, Alberta. I am excited to be back in front of the camera and looking forward to having a great new edition of the EE Live Q&A where we talk about all things express entry. I have a bunch of individuals who've sent me in email questions, and I'll try to sift through those initially. And then all of you awesome people who are tuning in live, I will give lots of time at the end to answer questions for you. So it's been probably 3 weeks since I last did one of these, and I'll give you guys who are just jumping in just a little bit of an overview, but it was not terribly fun for me. So you know how you get when you've got so many things going on, you're working hard, you've got high stress, all those things. Well, it finally caught up to me. And so I spent the last 3 weeks, well, really it probably started about 4 weeks ago, with gallstones. So I don't know if any of you have ever had issues with gallbladder attacks, but essentially I wasn't eating as good as I could have been. I wasn't exercising as well as I should have been. And that coupled with a little bit of, I guess it's a hereditary. My mother also had gallstones. It ultimately caught up to me. And I had a series of, probably 3 days where I was in emergency here in the hospital about 4 times until the point where they said, well, Mark, you have got gallstones that are causing problems and your gallbladder needs to be taken out. So that's what I've been doing. So about, I guess it was, what's today? Tuesday, almost 2 weeks ago. It was about 2 weeks ago in the evening. I had emergency surgery to have my gallbladder removed. Fortunately, with our awesome healthcare here in Alberta, and in Canada, they were able to do it laparoscopically. So they didn't have to open my stomach all the way up. They were able to do it just with little incisions and cameras and things like that. And I won't go into all the details, but they were able to successfully remove it. But the next day, the surgeon said to me, well, he wasn't terribly happy, let's put it that way, because it took him a long time to actually remove it because it was so inflamed. And he said to me, you were a mess. And so I've since learned that it's probably a good idea to really focus on taking care of yourself. And when you're busy and you've got a busy family and lots of obligations, I'm really involved with my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So I serve a lot in there. I work with the young men that are 16 years and older. I've got 2 of my own kids on missions, and then the office and all the other cool things that I'm doing here on Facebook. And I think it just all caught up to me. So a lot of you, I'm almost positive, have had way worse experiences than I did. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up as to why I was absent for the last 3 to 4 weeks and basically what was going on in my life. And so the reality is I need to make some changes. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do here. I also wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate your patience because, when you have a group that's the size of our Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Now, this is being broadcast on the Canadian Immigration Institute site just because it's easier and I can see who's actually posting comments. So Thoda says, hello, Mark. How are you? I'm doing good. Gurjeet says, how are you? Welcome back. Georgia says, hello, do you have an office in Edmonton? Georgia, I hope to very soon have an office in Edmonton. Kathy, hi from St. Petersburg, Florida, and urgent, I gain asylum in Canada. Okay, Kathy, that's not quite the topic of our discussion today, but I can appreciate there's lots of uncertainty in the U.S. Lukeman says, hi, and Lukeman says, can you know me? I don't know if I can know you. I don't think so. Anyways, so with all of that being said, I appreciate your patience for sticking it out, and hopefully we can get back into a routine again. I'm going to be doing these EE Live Q&As every Tuesday at noon this time, so I'm going to shift back to it. I was involved in a bunch of other things that I've backed away from all of them now, and just in order to make sure that I am that I'm not stretched in too many different places, so that I can be really good at the things that matter most to me. And what are they? One, being an awesome dad and husband. First and foremost, my family's number one. And they did tend to kind of take a back seat with all the other things that I had going on. Number two is my church. It's my belief in God and my faith that I have. That's super important to me. And then three, work and all the awesome other things that I have going on. But I've decided to narrow down my work and become much more laser focused so that I can be the best immigration lawyer that I can be. So that is a little bit of the rundown. Some of you who watched my videos a little bit earlier, actually yesterday when I let everybody know that I was actually going to be doing these again today, I shared a couple pictures, and actually I want to share. This is something that helps me significantly right there when I need just a little bit of a break and a little bit of downtime. And that is my horse, Joe. And he was awesome on Saturday. He was so good to me. He didn't, decide he wanted to run or trot, which obviously is not great when you're healing inside and you have these titanium clips in place where your gallbladder used to be. But he was awesome. He was so good. And so that's what I do to try and have a little bit of stress relief. And he was so good. I was so proud of him. And he was very grateful here in this picture that I took when I was on his back. When we finally got back after a little bit of a ride, he was like, whew, that's good, because I have not ridden him much this summer. So that's Joe, my quarter horse, and he is just like family to me and my kids and my wife. Anyways, all right, so that's just a little bit of background. Today, a little bit of housekeeping. Like I said, every Tuesday at noon, I'm going to do this, noon Mountain Standard Time. I had a period of time where I had themes for my Q&As, and that worked really good. But I'm not really sure the best way to do this other than to make myself available to answer questions. Obviously, they're a lot more difficult to search when people are watching them as a recording. You awesome people that are tuning in live and watching this live, well, you get the benefit of everything, and you're obviously really keen in learning about all aspects of Express Entry, because that's really what we end up covering by the time everyone asks their questions. So with all of that being said, let me give you a little bit of an overview. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to respond to the questions that were sent in by listeners via email. So those of you who are watching on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, or on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page, or within the Express Entry Law Facebook group as a recording, if you are not able to watch it live, you can send an email to my legal assistant, Stephanie, right here at stringham.ca. And don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. All right. So also, I had a little bit of a situation where the video dropped when I was doing another recording. I'm not sure why it did. Hopefully that's not going to happen. My Mac is getting full, and I'm trying to delete things so that it's got space. But hopefully, for whatever reason, the video feed drops. Don't despair. I will reconnect, and we will go re-live again. All right. Okay. So let's just double check in here with everybody else who's sending me comments. Jai says, hello, sir. How are you doing today? My name is Jai Prakash Thori from India. My 10-year experience in horse grooming and riding job. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Wajahat says, welcome back, Mark. Thank you. Lukwago says, hello, I am Lukwago based in Uganda. How can I settle and work in Canada? Thank you. Express Entry, Lukwago is the direction that you go, my friend. Unless you're able to actually locate a Canadian company who's hiring, which is not so easy, although it is getting better, folks. The economy is starting to pick up, the labor market is starting to pick up, and their opportunities are starting to grow, which is really exciting for me because that means there's just that many more opportunities to help people with immigration and their journey to Canada. All right, I'm going to just hold off for a second. Mauricia says, hi, Mark, welcome back. Happy to know you're recovering well. I am, Mauricia. Thanks so much. Okay, let's jump into these questions. The first one that I have is actually a question that was sent in from one of the subscribers to the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself. And that is a do-it-yourself guide that I have for a fraction of the cost that it would cost you to engage one of the agents or consultants in your home country. Let's just leave it at that. And Martha actually provided one of my testimonials. And if you want to find Martha, just give me 1 second. I'm going to show you guys something here. I've got so many different things bouncing around. I'm going to go to the YouTube channel. I'm going to share my screen with you here first. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to go to YouTube. And if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel right here, you'll see there's a lot of information on here. Wow, we're over 15,000. Cool. All I do is post here, so I don't even do anything to promote it or otherwise. But in this group here, if you scroll down, you'll see that there are a bunch of testimonials here, and this is, let's see, I'm just trying to think who I have here. Martha, I think she's in here somewhere anyways. Okay, all right, so you can go here and you can check out all the different testimonials. Okay, so here's the question, and this is what Martha sent. So Martha said, "Hello, Mark. I'm glad all went well with your surgery and you are back in action." That I am. I have a few questions that I'm hoping you'll be able to assist me with, and hopefully they will be helpful to others watching. So the first one relates to proof of funds, and lots of people have questions about proof of funds because it's not always clear. If your situation is such that you do not have your money in a checking account where you can readily access it, then it becomes a little bit more uncertain. And this leads to the question that Martha asked. She said, I received a nomination from Alberta. Woohoo, that's awesome. She says, and when I submitted the forms, I indicated that I would bring with me a certain amount of money. I adjusted my Express Entry profile to match the amount I had indicated in my Alberta application, which is totally fine until you receive an invitation to apply. It really, as long as you have more than the minimum funds, then it really doesn't matter. You have flexibility. She says, I do have the money available, but it is invested, and I prefer not to cash it. As an alternative, I could use the money in my savings account. However, it is less than the amount I indicated in my Express Entry profile and Alberta application, but greater than the minimum amount required by the Canadian government. Is it okay if I change the amount of money as long as it is equal or greater to the minimum required? This is where there actually is quite a bit of flexibility. If you have within your application to the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program or through Express Entry, if you've listed a certain amount of money and that money is obviously is above that cutoff, but then it goes down a little bit, but it's still above the cutoff, when I'm filing an Express Entry application, I just notify the government that, please note, this is how much money I have available to support myself at the EAPR stage, and then that is where it gets locked in. So Martha is not at that stage yet, but she's asking a question about whether you can put something in your expression of interest, or when you're responding to the notification from the province that will sometimes come in via your either your Express Entry profile or via email, that request for you to submit an application to them. We call it a passive process, where you don't do anything other than submit your profile, and then the various provinces will send out special notifications of interest to the candidates that have profiles that are attractive to them in the pool. And that does happen, guys. And so that's what happened with Martha here. But in her initial, and this is what I understand from her limited explanation here, initially she listed having a certain amount of money available, and now it's going to be a little bit less. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, Martha, as long as the funds exceed the minimum settlement amount that's required for Express Entry, then you're going to be just fine. I would also, just out of an abundance of caution, Martha then asks this question: can I use the funds in the name of my accompanying spouse? It's not from a joint account, but from an account on his name. And my short answer is yes, you can. So what I would do is I'd have your funds that are above the minimum amount, and then I would just add proof of the other things, including your investment account. And that should be no problem whatsoever. That should be fine. I can't see any issues with the Alberta Immigrant Nominee Program questioning that. So you're just fine. Okay. All right, I am going to leave it at that, Martha, but those are great questions. Thank you. Okay, next question is from Mohammed. And he says, hello, Mark. Glad to see you again after a long time. Hope you're fine now. I am well on my way. I'm amazed at how tired I am, though. I wasn't able to come into the office as early as I wanted today, and I'm probably going to be leaving a little bit earlier today as well. I've got a bunch of things that I have to do for clients to make sure that they get pushed out. But for just stamina, it takes your body time to recover. So that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, he says, my query is regarding proof of funds as well. Almost many people face these issues, and I thought I would become one of those now. I maintained funds for 3 months, but due to the exchange rate, it shows less than the CIC requirements. Now I have 2 ways to recover the rest of the amount. The funds are in my account, and I am accompanying spouse. I can deposit the rest of the amount, but in this case, how do I prove those amounts? Secondly, I transferred all of the amounts as a gift deed to wife's account as she's the primary applicant. In this case, which account statement to be shown? What about your suggestions as I'm stuck? Although I am waiting for an ITA. So it looks, Mohammed, like you have not yet received your invitation to apply. So in those circumstances, it's really not a big deal. You don't actually have to have those funds in your account for the full 6 months. I always advise my clients that if it's possible, I do that. But as long as you have a clear explanation that the funds are available, you've explained where they come from. If you are an accompanying spouse, which you indicate in your email here, then the funds can actually still be in your account as the sole owner of that account, not a jointly held account with your spouse. And they can still be used for the purposes of express entry. And proving proof of funds. So in your case, you actually didn't even need to provide a gift deed from your account to your wife's account if you were accompanying. And then you didn't have to transfer the funds into your wife's account. So you've got quite a bit of flexibility here, especially given the fact you haven't received an ITA yet. So so I wouldn't worry about it, Mohammed. Make sure that when you file your application, if you have any questions or concerns, you can just explain where the money came from. And if it's your earnings and your savings and your account and you just transferred it to your wife, and now after you transferred it to her account, the currency has caused the exchange to drop your proof of funds below the minimum for Canadian purposes. If you need to add more in from your own account or whatever, or even include funds that are currently in your account, that's okay if you're accompanying. All right, great question, Mohammed. Okay. All right, let's see what we've got here. So I haven't really vetted a lot of these closely. So bear with me if I look at these and say, oh, that goes beyond something I can answer in an EE Live Q&A. Bear with me. Okay, this one is from Siddhant. And he says, hi, Mark, love from India. First of all, thank you from the bottom of my heart for such commendable and informative videos. You're definitely doing one of the finest jobs in this field. With your guidance, I had applied for my EE in May 2009, and now I am waiting impatiently. Understand that, my friend. Actually, I had a query regarding the excessive demand issue that you've explained in your live Q&A, June 7th, 2019. There's this exemption given to the spouse of a PR holder from this excessive demand. Okay, yes. As such, there are 2 ways for a spouse to get a PR. By applying through EE and mentioning that they are a spouse of a permanent resident, as there are extra points for that as well, when the permanent resident spouse sponsors them for a spousal visa. My doubt is whether this excessive demand exemption, as stated in the link given above, applicable to both the above situations. Awesome, Siddhant. This is a great question. So just to summarize so everybody understands what's being asked here. And I'm wondering if maybe I should pull these up and actually have everybody read along with me now that I think about it, especially these ones that are longer. So excessive demand and exemptions from excessive demand only apply to the family class, not the economic class. So if you were an accompanying spouse of a principal applicant who was applying for express entry, if it was determined after a immigration medical, that you could potentially cause an excessive demand on Canadian health or social services, then that could make you and your spouse, the principal applicant, medically inadmissible. However, if your spouse is already a permanent resident of Canada and they are applying to sponsor you as a spouse to join them in Canada under the family class, then that excessive demand doesn't apply. So you can't be found inadmissible. However, here's the trick, okay? Remember that if you right now have concerns about excessive demand or not passing your medical exam, even if you're a non-accompanying spouse, it doesn't matter for the purposes of express entry. You still need to have an immigration medical. You still need to complete a police clearances and provide them to immigration to be assessed whether you're accompanying or not. So even if your spouse has not yet come to Canada and they're applying for express entry and listing you as non-accompanying, they could still be found medically inadmissible even if you're not planning on coming with them. So that's one of the requirements. So unless your spouse is already a permanent resident of Canada and that was before you were married, then coming back and sponsoring you through the family class is not going to be an issue. But if they're not a permanent resident right now, then you're going to run into issues because you still have to have that medical whether you're coming or not. Great question. Awesome. That was actually a really good one. Kind of made me think there because it's not the traditional one. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Okay, this one is from Afraz. And he says, "Hi, Mark. It's great to see you back in good health. Thanks. My question, what would one do in a scenario where we are expecting a passport request within the next couple of weeks and also expecting an addition to the family? Dependent wife is expecting anytime soon." Faraz, the first thing I want to say is congratulations. That is so cool. Okay, he goes on to say, "My brother got a re-medical request after almost 12 months of his AOR. He and his wife got the remeds done, and I believe this will follow with the passport request email. His wife is expecting a child within the next 3 or 4 weeks. Please suggest the best course of action in these kinds of circumstances." Okay, well, Afraz, the reality is maybe your spouse, I'm assuming, so if this is related to your brother here, the medical request, obviously, if it comes back and they request because it's over 12 months, and your spouse is expecting, then the baby, unless you don't have concerns with x-rays, usually those follow-up medicals can't be completed until the baby is born. So it will add probably another 6 months onto the process. At least that's been my experience. But everything will come to a halt. The child, when they're born, will need to have a passport. They'll need to get the photo taken. The government will request that you update. They'll provide you a link to complete the background declaration forms and to update the other forms related to family that are accompanying. And that little child, as goofy as it sounds, will need to have an immigration medical done too. So it will delay things, and there's no real way of getting around it unless a passport request comes and the whole family is able to land before the baby is born. It will delay the whole process because that child will then need to be added into the process. So that's the scoop. All right, Afraz, great question. Okay, Shalini says, "Greetings. Hope you're doing good. I have a couple of questions which I'm mentioning below." Okay, I'll see which ones I can answer. She says, "My profile is in Express Entry Pool and I'm expecting an invite in the next draw." Well, that's exciting. Awesome, Shalini. Okay, so Shal says, "I am working with my current employer for the last 5 years. Out of these 5 years, the first 4 I was working from India with an Indian MNC, and then I got an internal transfer to a Canadian branch on an LMIA exempt closed work permit where I am working for the last 1 year. So probably an intercompany transfer work permit. C12, we call it. My employer is not ready to provide me any kind of employment reference letter. Of course not. They'd rather just exploit you and use you as a foreign worker than allow you to become a free agent. I hate companies like that. I tried to reach out to my manager, but he also refused. Please suggest if submitting affidavits from fellow colleagues and team members would help. A couple of my team members agreed to provide me the same with the kind of information which is generally required on an employment reference letter. Shall absolutely, when your company is not cooperating, without a doubt, you're going to tap into every resource you can to prove everything from your transferring letter. And I'll give you some other tips. One of the best documents is the work permit application package and the employer letter and information that was submitted to get you your work permit to Canada, because that information was already submitted to Immigration, Refugee, and Citizenship Canada, and so they can't pretend that you're not working for them. Your work permit that you have, yes, co-workers, affidavits from them, 100%. And there are some other things as well that really I flush out when I have a better chance to really understand the situation. But those are generally a very high level, some of the things that I commonly will recommend to clients. I'll also indicate if you have a transferring letter yourself, that a secondment agreement or something like that confirms you're being transferred from your company in India to Canada. And so there's lots of things that you can do to provide that evidence. And if you've worked for a year, you're going to have a T4 that the company would have had to provide you for immigration, for tax purposes. And so you've got a lot going for you. One thing I would recommend, Shal, is that you reach out to my office and just book a consult. And in 30 minutes, I can go over the ins and outs of this process and just take you by the hand and help you to make sure that this works. It really irritates me when companies do this, because they are actually afraid that you're going to leave once you become a permanent resident or a free agent. And let's face it, guys, the reality is, who would want to stay at a company once they become a permanent resident if they're not supportive of them? And I've got my own issues on that whole topic, and it really frustrates me. But at the end of the day, if the company is not willing to cooperate, there are things that we can do. So, Shal, just go to the link on my firm website, and you can, here, I'll just post it quick. I think Stephanie might be watching. I'm not sure. Stephanie's actually at home today, working from home, because she didn't have childcare for the last couple of days. So she's home there. I'm just going to pull up here. Got too many things going on here. Okay, let me go here. I'm going to pull up the link, and I'm just going to post it. So you can look down in the feed, and that's the link where you can actually, I'll just share my screen a little bit here. It just looks like this. This is the page here. I've posted the link in it, and you can just schedule a consult just by filling out the information here in this web form. All right, awesome. So that is what you do, but you're in good shape, Shal. This will work out for you, absolutely. Okay, okay, yeah. Now we'll move on. Okay, the next one, this one is Shazman. He says, hello, Mark. Welcome back. Thank God your surgery went well and you are fine now. Below is my query. One or more gift deed from parents, and should they be in account for 6 months? So like I said at the beginning, the 6-month period is ideal because it shows to the government that those funds are more likely going to be yours if you've accumulated them over time. That's why they want to look back and see, okay, are these funds from your savings that you've accumulated over the past 6 months? Great, then they've got comfort that it's truly your funds. Gift deeds, where parents give you money, it's not critical that those gift deeds be in your account for 6 months. If they are, well, that's fine. That's great. It's one more indicator that the funds are actually yours, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You want to make sure that it's very clearly documented, and that the gift deed really does cover off that they are 100% freely given funds. They're not otherwise encumbered. It's an irrevocable gift. In other words, once those funds are transferred to you, there's no legal obligation for you to give them back. And I've always said, there's always discretion, but family give money, friends loan money. So if you are getting a gift deed from a friend, immigration is probably going to look at that a little bit more closely than if it was your parent who was giving you money to help settle in Canada. All right, great question, Shaz. Okay, this one's from Dev. Dev says, hope you're doing well. Below is my question for EE Live Q&A. Is it okay to get a police clearance from Indian Embassy in advance? I mean, before we get the ITA? 100%. If they're willing to do that, there's no issues whatsoever. Obviously, if you're applying through the Indian Embassy, it's because you're not in India right now. And those police certificates don't expire if you have not returned back to that country. And so getting it in advance is prudent. I like that, if the embassy is willing to give it to you. Sometimes some countries, they want to actually see that you have an invitation to apply issued. before they will grant it. But if you can get it in advance, then go for it. Do it. Okay, Marina's got a few questions here, and we'll try to get through these ones. Hello, here are some of my questions for the live Q&A. Regarding proof of work for self-employed people. Okay, this is a challenging one. Let's see if we can answer this. As a freelancer professional who owns a company, how does one continuous working year counted? By their own company or by third parties. Example, I do have 1 full year of work with no pause, but it's divided in 2 TV shows that I made for different producers. Is that a problem? Okay, so like we've talked about in the past in my EE Live Q&As and in a lot of the videos that I've done, your obligation is to prove exactly what IRCC is looking for. And they want to know that you have been continuously employed for at least 1 year in a skilled, paid occupation, and full-time is 30 hours per week. And so as you're self-employed, especially as a freelance TV producer, the reality is it's going to be a challenge for you to prove it. So the only way you can do that is through your clients, whoever you're doing it for, who can then provide a letter or explain that, yes, you worked back-to-back 1 full year nonstop, and if it was 6 months for one and 6 months for another, it's those third-party letters, invoices that you've sent, any hours that you've kept documenting your time, however the compensation flows. Those are the things that are most important, because when it comes to duties, it's also kind of challenging. So I often will ask clients or other people who've used your services to explain specifically what you did. So what were your duties? So sometimes the invoice isn't enough, or the payment of for services isn't enough. Sometimes you actually need to get those people to explain exactly what you did, because your obligation is to show that if you're claiming work as a film producer, that you're actually the producer and maybe not some other low skill position. So I've had some people come to me with issues where IRCC questioned that full-time work experience because it's really difficult to prove. Marina, like I said in the past in the other questions here today, these types of questions when it comes to freelance work experience and self-employed are actually really, really tricky and dynamic. And so, you also say in question 2, how does the 3 years are counted when you're a freelancer? Since a freelancer, there are months that someone might have worked for only a couple of weeks or might have gaps between jobs. You still have an obligation to prove continuous work. Now, once you've got that first year established, 1 year of continuous work, then you've met the threshold. Then after that, you have to detail in excruciating detail each step of the way, each section of work, and then you can bundle that together in bits and pieces. But I would create a detailed chart spreadsheet for the officer explaining each of the hours worked, how it all worked out. And there is the ability to average a little bit your hours if your work hours are quite varied. But the reality is you still have to show, if you want to claim any week of work experience, that you worked at least 30 hours to meet the full-time requirement. Or in some cases, I've had clients who have taken their time and maybe it didn't reach full-time, so then they used it as part-time. And it just took longer to get the 3 years that we really are looking for when we're trying to maximize our points with foreign work experience. Okay. Those are great questions. I'm going to stop there, Marina. I'll say the same thing. If you'd like to book a 30-minute consult, we can go through everything in great detail, and I can actually show you how to set things up. But generally speaking, the onus is on you to prove it. And a statement from yourself saying this is what I did is not going to be given much weight by immigration. You have to use outside or external third-party resources. Okay. Fada here is the next one, and Fada says, I want to thank you for so much valuable information that you provide in your videos. I found your YouTube channel by chance 1 month ago while looking for information about Express Entry. And you know what, guys? This is the reality. Everybody that's joined the group, everybody that's joined the Facebook Express Entry Law private Facebook group, I don't do anything to market it, and I probably should, because I've got, there's all this awesome resources there. but I've never really figured out a good way to push it out so that people know about it. I'm trying to figure it out, and I've got a few resources that I'm tapping into, but if any of you have good suggestions on how to really promote the YouTube channel and all the content that's contained in the Express Entry Law Facebook group, and now as I'm broadcasting here on the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page, I am all ears. And I know some of you are experts in this stuff. All right. Okay. So they found my YouTube channel by chance. I would like to sincerely say that the way you explain and give us the information is completely different from any other person in YouTube explaining Express Entry. Thank you for being so helpful. You know what, Fada, that really means a lot. I always wonder whether the way I'm doing this is really effective. Obviously, I spent a lot of time of giving backstories and talking about myself, and we really are kind of a family here. So I'm always curious. Some people, they don't respond well to it. They're just like, stop talking, Mark, and just get to the answer. I don't care about you. Well, they're not the right fit for this group and for this family. And that's totally fine. It's not for everybody. So when I do get people like Fada here who appreciates kind of the way I deliver things, and I guess maybe it's kind of my teaching background a little bit, that really means a lot. Okay, my question, Fada says, is related to employment history. I'm from Morocco, and I got my PhD in computer science, and I'm not working continuously in a contract for the same job as I'm teaching as a vacant professor. The only work that I can claim in my profile is my freelance job. That's so tough, that I do as a support agent. The company that I'm working for remotely is Canadian, which is well known and established, and has a present clear website. I'm wondering if this will be a problem, because I have very high education profile, as I'm a PhD student in computer science, but my work experience is somewhat not 100% compatible with it. Well, it doesn't matter. For the purposes of Express Entry, your education doesn't have to match with your work experience. The only thing that matters is if you have performed all of the main duties in the lead statement and a substantial number of the essential, or they call it a substantial number of the main duties in the job description, or the duties listed in that NOC for your particular NOC code. So your education really doesn't play a huge role in it, as long as you can prove that you actually perform those duties and perform that job. Now, if you're applying to come and work in Canada, like this other individual that we talked about earlier, who was working on an intercompany transfer, in those situations, yes, they will look very clearly to make sure that your education matches with the minimum education requirements set out in the NOC profile description. So that's where it plays into the actual assessment process. Okay, but yeah, when it comes to proving freelance, just like I just finished explaining with the other person, all of those same expectations are going to fall for you. You have an obligation to show that you've been continuously employed for that period of time, and that your work as a support agent is actually a skilled position and not one that would be considered low skill. All right. So yes, you can. And yes, you're going to get whatever you can from your employer, whatever they will give, as detailed as possible. If you can get a letter from your employer that you worked for freelance, together with, like you have indicated here, your monthly paid bills, monthly bank statements, yes, all of that, if you can get that conforms with the minimum requirements that immigration is requesting. And I'm just going to flip back here and just show you guys, some of you newbies who are just tuning in. I love the Completeness Check website right here. So this is on the Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada website. And those who are watching this live, I'll just copy and paste the link in here. It's a long one. But ultimately, you can see here, if you go and you search for work history, oh, I hit the wrong button. This one. Okay, so if you go proof of work experience, even if you're freelance, there's a little bit of instruction here about if you're self-employed. So you're going to follow that to the letter. Proof that you actually have a business. You're going to provide evidence of income and documentation from who? Third-party individuals indicating the service provided, along with payment details. And then, as I emphasized, self-declared main duties or affidavits are not helpful. So this letter from your employer describing the service and the payments is really critical. And the closer you can get it to including this stuff up here, which is what they ask for everybody else who's employed, the job duties you can see here, duties and responsibilities, job status, dates worked for the company, number of hours per week, and annual salary and benefits. If you can get your letter from one of your clients that has that level of detail in it, then you're going to be in really good shape. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful to you, and thank you for that awesome question. Okay, and actually the same goes for all of you guys. If you want to book a consult, you can just do that, and we can go over everything, and I can kind of give you my blueprint for how I try to tackle providing work experience and proof of it when you're self-employed. It's not easy. And the reality is every single person is different. So if you're relying on something online, treat it just as kind of a recommendation or a suggestion, because every situation is different, and what might be unnecessary for one person may be critical for another. And that's why, as an immigration lawyer, the information that I provide here is just that. It's information. It's not legal advice. These are suggestions and recommendations, but until I actually have a chance to go through, read, and understand exactly your situation in detail, I can't give specific legal advice that will basically help you to remove the stress and the uncertainty, because that's what people book consults for. It's so that they don't have to stress. And what does that mean? It means that I stress. And what happens from my stress? Apparently a gallbladder attack and the need to have my gallbladder removed. But that's okay. I love doing this. Okay, next one is from Nita. And Nita says, good to see you back. I'm at the post-AOR stage, just 2 months far in my timeline. However, I received a request, an RPRF, so a request for the permanent resident fee. Can you please tell me, what does RPRF request indicate at this stage? I'm also done with my medicals and biometrics. Well, if you are getting a request to pay the fees, that means that you're getting close to the end of the road. So your application could be being processed a little bit quicker, Nita, especially if it's only been 2 months after your acknowledgement of receipt. Now, maybe, Nida, you're in Canada. Maybe you're a CEC. You haven't indicated if you qualified through the Canadian Experience class. Sometimes in Canada, applications are processed a little bit quicker. So, but hey, it's good news. That's the one thing I can tell you. All right. Nasib says, hi, Mark. Wish you a prompt recovery. Me too, my friend. Me too. Tell me whether it is mandatory to inform CIC if we change job and travel abroad. Thank you for what you're doing. Okay, Nasib, I'm assuming that this is after you've filed your EAPR and you have your acknowledgement of receipt. So in those circumstances, your background is pretty locked. However, I don't usually worry about updating about jobs unless in your work history, your last job was a continuous job where you clicked, yes, it's my current job. And then theoretically, if you change that position or you move to a different country, then in those circumstances, I would definitely notify through a case-specific inquiry, IRCC, that you are no longer working in that job and that work history has come to an end, because that will continue, at least from the standpoint of immigration. Even though your work history is locked in at the time in which they do the completeness check, still, it's something that's no longer correct in your application. So I will update it there. Also, if you moved residences or changed addresses, then I would also update your address. So those are the circumstances. But if you're just traveling abroad, I wouldn't worry too much about updating your travel history. I'm not too concerned about that unless for some reason, well, no, not even in those circumstances. I don't get too worked up about it because Express Entry should be processed quickly within 6 months. Okay. Last question. Pascal says, hello, Mark. I ordered PCC from Dubai, but they mentioned my old expired passport number on it, even though it is recently issued. It would be an issue if I upload it with a copy of this old passport, along with an explanation in case I failed to correct this mistake. The PCC issued online is acceptable if it is only signed and written on it that it doesn't require any stamp, or should I get it to be certified? Whatever the official police certificate report that comes back that you get, you can use it. If it has your old passport number, that's not an issue. Then include a copy of your old passport and your current one, just so that the officer can know that this is indeed you. But in terms of getting any extra stamps or any extra things to have it certified, the reality is whatever is the legal police certificate that is issued by that state, that country, you can rely on that. If in order to have it validated somehow, or there's another step that the police or the police agency needs you to complete, then you do that. But you don't have to go and do some other extra step unless it's specifically required in order to validate or authenticate that the police certificate is properly issued by that country. All right. Whew. Well, that was pretty good. There was a ton of questions there. Let's just see here as I'm going through everything where we're at here. So wow, I took about 45 minutes to get through those. That's what happens when you have so many people that have not had a chance to have an EE Live Q&A, and now I'm trying to play catch up. So lots of people have posted a ton of comments in here. And so what I'm going to do is I want you, because I need to figure out where I'm at and what the most recent ones are, I'm going to start with Jasdeep Singh here. And he has a question. That's the last one here that shows up on my feed. So if you have a question now, if you're watching live that you want answered, and I'll try to give lots of time to the people who are watching this live. I'll definitely go over the 1 hour, so you don't need to worry about that. But for anyone, you can repost your comments, and then please forgive me if I skip through it, if I don't see it. It's just me here. So I'm looking at the comments and answering and doing, everything. So I'll start with Jasdeep Singh, and his question says, I used 0124. Okay, let's see here. Actually, I don't understand what Jasdeep is asking here. I used 0124. Have a look at job duties and see if it matches your profile. Okay, I'm not quite sure what that question is. Okay, moving on. Next is, what is a gift deed? Is it a document that I have to provide? Good question. So people who do not have sufficient funds in their own savings sometimes will get money given to them as a gift from a family member. And those funds will then be used to settle in Canada. The government of Canada does accept that gift from a family member. And yes, I guess theoretically it's possible to get a gift from anyone, but I tend to restrict my advice to my clients to just close family members. You can use that for proof of funds. So people who don't have the funds themselves will get funds transferred to them from someone else, and then it's called gift deed in many countries. It's basically a legal document that the person who's giving signs and authenticates and swears, and it's a binding document that says this money I'm giving to this person is a free gift. It's irrevocable. I can't reverse it, and it's not otherwise encumbered by anything else. And that is what a gift deed is. Those of you who subscribe, and I'm just going to shift over here quickly. Let's see if we can pull this up. So the Canadian Immigration Institute, this is where I am currently, and not for long because it's going to disappear. I'll just put the link in there. This right here is where you can access my complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself. And I'm just going to jump in here to my view, and I'm going to scroll down to my document checklist. So I have a section all about uploading your documents. And lesson 40 here, document checklist, if you go here, you will see that I have
probably the most important section in this entire guide.
In addition to a detailed
this is the document checklist section.
But at the
and yours is going to look
here,
something like this. Now, the documents that we have listed here are
medicals,
the ones that pertain to this particular individual that I act for.
And all of this stuff.
This list is generated based upon the answers that were given in the EAPR information section. So depending upon the answers that you gave, it triggered the computer to create these particular sections that relate specifically to the points for which you're trying to claim comprehensive ranking system points for.
You know where I'm going with
so you can see here, this document checklist has everything from offers of employment, education, and then employment records. In this case, there are 3 different occupations or 3 different work histories that this person wanted to claim points for. And so there's a separate section for each of them. Then there is a letter of employment, proof of financial support, police certificates, digital photos, marriage certificates, because this person actually has a family, and there's passport, medical exam, and then the use of representative form, because I am representing them. Yours could look different. The order could be different. And I have yet to figure out why things are ordered the way they are. But this is what you're going to see. I want you to pay close attention to these instruction buttons. I call these little radio buttons. It is critical that you click on these so that you can figure out exactly what they're trying to get at. So, in this case, this person actually had an offer of employment from a company in Canada because he was working for a company in Canada. And not only that, but his work permit was a named work permit for an employer, which satisfies the requirement for job offers. Now, in this guide, I will talk about job offers, and I already have talked about job offers. But for this person, this is where you would upload what the job offer documents, can you please let me what is required by IRCC. So you must provide a job offer letter from the employer who wants to hire you. Great. It must be printed on company letterhead and state that you will be employed permanently by that company. What's going on? But if you can see that the letter itself has to be for continuous paid full-time work of at least 30 hours for work that is permanent and not seasonal, and skill type 0A or B. Now this says of the 2011 NOC, but we know it's actually 2016, and you can see they haven't even updated this section. So all over the place, you have to watch and be careful because IRCC is constantly changing some things and not getting around to changing others. Anyways, you can see that the job offer must be for a permanent job, and it has to be for at least 1 year in most cases. The job offer letter must include contact information for the company, the address and telephone number, and so you can see all of this information needs to be specifically in that letter that you are going to be uploading for your job offer, if you are fortunate enough to have it. It's not like you can. But each of these sections has their own instructions attributed to it. Follow these specifically. It's not rocket science, but if for whatever reason you can't satisfy exactly what they're asking for. So let's take a look at proof of means of financial support. And publication. You can see here that you must prove that you can support yourself and your family members while you're getting settled in Canada. And you can see here it says provide as many of these documents as you can. And so look closely before you get too far into this. Temporary residents are not you. You, in fact, are right down here, a permanent resident. So you can ignore all of this first section and just jump straight to the second one. And I'm just going to go back in here and I'm going to pop that open again because it jumped away on me. So for permanent residents, you must provide an official letter issued by your financial institution indicating your financial profile. It needs to list all your bank and investment accounts, account numbers, dates each were opened, and the balance for each account over the past 6 months. And it needs to list all the outstanding debts and credits and credit cards and loans, and printed on the letterhead of the financial institution. And got an ITA July 24th. And it also, of course, needs to include your name and your contact, include your name and the contact information for the financial institution in case they actually want to reach out and double check to make sure what you're providing is legitimate. So guys, you need to follow each of these things explicitly. And if for whatever reason you can't, well, then you have to do your very, very best to satisfy whatever they're asking for through other means. So many people ask me when it comes to proof of funds, can I get money from a parent? Can I get someone else to give me that money? And what if it hasn't been in my account for 6 months?
But from the time period of getting
understand that if you're not adhering specifically to each of these areas that they're asking you to address, then there is a risk that your documentation could be refused or not accepted, which will result in your application getting returned, which could be disastrous for some of you guys. So pay close attention to these.
If you've submitted after July 31st,
you can see here on the left it says details not provided. Well, every time you go to upload a document, this is going to change. So let me show you how this is done. So over here, you click on upload a file.
I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Now it will ask you to choose where your file is located.
Your EAPR.
So in here, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to click on choose a file.
13 months as an unpaid
and then this is going to take me to where I have my document stored. Now, if you've got a Mac, you can use this. If you've got, it's going to look like this. If you have a PC, it's going to be different, but you can locate your file. So here's my offer of employment. And you'll see here that I actually make sure that I entitle it the exact same thing as the section I'm uploading it into, to make sure that I am uploading the proper document in the right place. And I'm going to click on here and I'm going to open it. And then once it's here, I'm going to go upload file here on the right. And I'll show you. I want to explain to you why I'm doing this. So now it's here. It says return to your documents. I'm going to click return to my documents.
Videos. I have one question. Why does CAC, okay, we already
answered that. And now as you look over here, you can see it is officially uploaded. There it says uploaded,
someone else's
but
question.
not submitted to IRCC.
Nisrin says,
so basically that is not going to change until you actually file your application now. So one of the things I want to point out, and this is why naming is so important. When you click on here, you can't open it up. It doesn't let you look at the document that you have posted. So the only way that you can know that you've got the right document in the right place is by actually the name of it. And so what I've shown you here is, look at what happened here.
I just got my letter of confirmation
Proof of funds, Mark Holthe.
My PR application.
Now I did this on purpose for you guys. Now I thought I had uploaded the right document.
Thanks a lot.
But that doesn't match with offer of employment. And my goal is to make sure that the title matches the actual name.
South of Toronto,
so something went wrong. I actually uploaded the wrong document. So I need to fix this. So how do I do that? If you go over here, you can see this has changed now. It says update information. So I'm going to click on this.
Do it in Canada.
And then the way you update it is by going back and choosing your file again. And this time I want offer of employment, Mark Holthe, and I'm going to open it. And when you open a new one, it will actually replace the other one. So I'm going to click upload file here.
I have no clue what you mean by that, Steve.
This confirms that it works.
With my current 9-to-5 job,
and then I'm going to click return to your documents.
US-based firm. Do I have to mention this in my personal history? Yeah, you're going to listen. You're going to.
All right, now let's take a look.
Your personal history.
Offer of employment hyphen Mark Holthe. Offer of employment.
Want to claim.
And I always put the person's name on there, as I indicated before, so that it matches up with, so I'm in the right section. Now I've got this blurred out here, but this section right up here, that is where the person's name is. And so all the documents relating to that person, I always name with that person's name. All right? I think you guys understand it. Okay. So when it comes to documents, those are just some of the details of how to upload and do it in that fashion. But let's just touch on briefly each of these different sections, and just I'll give you a high-level description of what it is. But the key here, guys, is to follow these radio buttons with exactness. If your education here says that you need to provide a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, then you do it. But I'll give you a tip. I always include my WES report here. I always include transcripts if I have them, as well as my bachelor's, as well as the actual degree itself. Now, can you see anywhere where it says that here? No. And some of you may say, well, that's overkill, Mark. But I can tell you that I just don't take chances. So I'll include a copy of my educational credential assessment, whether it's WES or ICAS or one of those. And I will bundle them all together in one PDF document and upload it together. Okay. Now you'll see here for this individual, there are 3 different employment records, 1, 2, and 3. And these correspond with the exact order that your employment in your work history, the different employment that you have listed there that you want to claim work experience for. And so each of these corresponds with one of those sections. So for this person, he's actually listed 3 different types of work that he wanted to include. You may not, and we talked about what you want to include and what you don't. We talked about the fact that you don't need to include anything more than what will give you the maximum comprehensive ranking system points. So you don't need to worry about adding in extra work history that doesn't fit. We've already talked about that.
Okay.
Because it's all included in your personal history section. But each of these will relate specifically to the employment that you listed in your EAPR work history section. So let's click on this button, and you can see here's what we've talked about.
I'm so sorry about that.
And we've covered this before, but you can see here that your letter, official really document printed on company.
See, that's why I have Mauricia. And now I've talked with everybody, and I've wasted all this time. And because I don't have my headphones, wow, that's frustrating. I'm really sorry, guys. Oh boy, I really need someone to kind of. I think Stephanie might be following here, but anyways, frustrating. My apologies, everyone. I think I've got it shut off now. Give me a thumbs up if that's the case, Mauricia. Oh boy. Okay, well, let's move forward here. That's all I can do is keep going forward. Rura says, hello, sir. Glad to see you. Please, could you answer my question? My query is regarding Canadian Medical Council. When paying the fee by Visa card for ECA, is it mandatory to pay by Canadian or the American dollars accepted? Same question regarding the fee. Credit cards are credit cards, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, everybody's giving me thumbs up. Thanks, guys. Oh, boy. All right. Yeah, the credit card doesn't matter. They will do the conversion internally, Rura, so you don't need to worry about that. Vesha says, with regards to the processing of permanent residence applications via express entry, what does eligibility requires review mean? Well, that means that a primary officer needs to send it to someone else or to do further investigation that's going to take you outside of the traditional 6-month processing. That's what it means. And so once they've determined that eligibility requires review, it means that they have to look closer at your work letters. They have to look closer at the other education or whatever it is that they've got issues with. Usually it's work history, and that causes a delay and can push things out. And yeah, you order your GCMS notes, and those notes will tell you specifically what the officer has concerns with. Okay, Kritika says, I'm asking for my sister. So she was a Marine officer and working in a company on a rational job, 4 months on and 2 months off, but she was paid round the year. She has salary slips and his contract letter, reference letter. Will she be eligible? The reality is immigration says continuous employment. And it's very possible that 2 months, Kritika, may not be accepted by immigration. Obviously, if she has nothing else to lose, then she indicates, truthfully everything that she was doing. But remember, you have to show that you've been working full-time at least 30 hours a week for at least 1 year in a skilled occupation that's paid. So the paid, yes, that's great. But was she actually working? Well, with the 2 months off, arguably it can't be said that she was working 30 hours a week during that time period. So I think it would be really hard to prove that. All right, Kamal says, hi Mark, thank you for your informative videos. I have one question. Okay. Okay, we already answered that one. Then we've got a thank you for your answer. You're very welcome. Parth says, EEDOI guide is running, or I can't hear you. Okay, great. Thank you, you guys. Everybody, now I'm getting to them. See, this is what happens sometimes when I'm scrolling through. I'm glad that you guys can all hear me now. I'm tempted to just cut that out of the video. I don't have time to edit. Guys, this is what it is. Thank you for bearing with me. Okay, can't hear you. Double voice. 2 voices. Can't hear. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, so as you can see from the Canadian Immigration Institute, and I think it's because I turned the volume down on the computer itself, Okay, I think we're fixed. I think we're all good. Okay, Kamal's asking for an answer to the question again. Okay, well, I'll answer it again. Okay, why does CAC ask for CV education and publication after 2.5 months of AOR? Is that a bad sign? So, as I indicated when everything was duplicated, Kamal, it's not a good sign. It means that immigration is questioning whether or not the information you provided is accurate. So, I'll be honest, I have not had many clients asked to provide a CV with education and publications. I think they want to also compare the information that you would have put in your personal history. So there's a number of things. Okay, now I'm getting lots of hearts. Great. Thanks for working with me, guys. I'm just an average schmo here. I'm nothing special. Doing my best to try to help people. And sometimes the production quality of what's happening here is pretty awful. So it is what it is. My apologies. And all I can do is just soldier forward. So Kamal, yes. The reality is if you were to get request the GCMS notes and take a look at what the officer has, it would give you more information on why they're asking for it. But the timeline usually that you have to answer, it doesn't give you time enough to actually request the notes. So all I can advise you is give them exactly what they want. But there's probably some inconsistency or something that they want to check. And so, yes, it's not a great sign. If you want to book a consult, we can go through everything and try to sort out what it might be. But, all you can do in those circumstances is to provide whatever explanations you can, and try to do your best to try to anticipate what could be the issue. And when I do consults, we'll go through the actual questions, how you've answered them. We'll look at your work history. Some people don't keep copies of their EAPR, which is one thing I always advise everyone to do. But yeah, it's definitely something to be concerned about. Okay. Wow. Poor everybody is giving me the, I can't hear you. Emeka says, can you call? Hey, Emeka, there's another one. Mashi's here. And he also, if you go to the YouTube, you can check out his comments on the Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide. Thanks, Mashi. Okay, Rura says very sad. Yes. Okay, Kamal says, yep, I've already answered that. Yay, Echo has been fixed. Yes, Yuri, Echo has been fixed. Thanks for your patience. Okay, Hina, let's see. Your question, I guess I must have skipped that. Let's see if I can find Hina's question. Bear with me, guys, and I will re-answer it. I had some good answers there, guys. Okay, Hina, where's yours? Okay, I'll start. Okay, so Hina, it's been complete 12 months of my spouse. I gave them my family medicals. Okay, this is the spousal question. So Hina, in your situation, as far as the delay, yes, you can request, you can ask them, do a case-specific inquiry, or call the call center, and you can ask them, what the delay is. The processing times are 12 months. Once you've crossed over 12 months for a spousal, then you're within your right to inquire as to where things are at. So yeah, I would recommend that you do that, Hina. Okay, jump back down here. Okay. Shalini says, hi, Mark, here's my question. I have 5 years of experience with my current employer. So is there any need to submit any proof documents for my previous 6 years of work experience? My entire 11 years of experience is in the same NOC. If you do not require 6 full years of work experience to obtain enough points to qualify through the Federal Skilled Worker Program's eligibility assessment, because remember, there's 2 assessments done. Federal Skilled Worker Program and the Comprehensive Ranking System. So with the eligibility under the Federal Skilled Worker Program, if you are getting enough points to meet the 67-point threshold for the Federal Skilled Worker Program, in those circumstances, then 5 years is all you need. You don't need to do any more because you're only getting maximum CRS points under the skill transferability factors for foreign work experience and education, foreign work experience, and language with 3 years of foreign work experience. So, all right. Okay, MD Rashidul, sir, could you please answer my question again? Couldn't actually hear you. Topu, I'm not sure if I answered your question. Maybe repost it for me, okay? Rura says, thank you so much for answering my query. You're welcome. Okay, Imtiaz says, I'm an electrical engineer. I am good in English, but whenever I sit in IELTS, I score 6 overall. I don't know why. I'm so sorry, Imtiaz. This is something that happens a lot. All I can recommend is that you reach out to get some help, and maybe you can find a tutor that can assist you to help improve the strategy that you employ. Yeah, that's all that I can recommend at this stage. Hi, Mark. I asked earlier if you are fit to take consults. Emeka, yes, I am. So if you guys want to just book those consults, you can totally do that. Stephanie will now start scheduling them. I told her I'm good to go. So yeah, I know I've got a lot of people that have wanted consults and I haven't been available. I think you understand now why. So absolutely, go ahead and do that. I am more than willing to. Okay, Kamal says, yep, we got the voice figured out. Okay, Ayad wants me to answer his question again, so I'll do that. Worked for 10 years, same place, same position, but during this period took 13 months unpaid leave to do military service and unpaid vacation. How do I indicate that on my experience certificate? Just explain it. Remember, once you've got that 1 year of continuous work experience, those breaks aren't going to hurt you. But you don't want to give the impression that those periods of time when you actually were doing military service or in unpaid vacation, that they would be treated as work history. So when you're including it in your work history, you're going to actually break those sections out and you're going to list that work history in multiple sections, because the Express Entry portal doesn't really allow you to indicate multiple sections or periods of work in one portal entry. So you actually have to enter it as separate sections. And then in your personal history section, you're going to indicate what you're actually doing in those gaps, which is military service and unpaid vacation. All right, good question. Okay, Ashreen says, hi, Mark, good to see you back. Can a paid remote work from your own place, is considered as work experience, and should the employer mention as work 30 hours in the reference letter? Okay, Ashreen, this is likely, it depends on the nature of your employment. If you're actually an employee and you were required to work certain hours, then you're going to indicate exactly what you worked. But you're not just going to throw something down as 30 hours if you ultimately didn't even work consistently 30 hours. That would be misrepresentation. So if it's a self-employed type of a situation where you're working freelance, then you need to really be careful to document it. But the rules don't change. You need at least 15 hours a week that you can prove to claim part-time work. So then you work 2 years to accumulate 1 year of skilled work experience, or you are able to demonstrate that you actually did work 30 hours. And then in the previous explanations I gave for self-employment and proving that, you'd follow those patterns. Once again, Ashreen, I'd recommend a consult if that is the route that you want to go. Okay, it looks like, yes, Stephanie is connected, and she did confirm for Emeka, yes, I am starting to do consults again. Great. Okay. Kritika, I'm not sure if I answered this one already, but your question relates to if my employer mentioned in the training work experience reference letter that you are carrying on duties of, in this case, a dentist, but as an assisting in carrying out those duties, then, like I said, it comes down to an officer and whether or not they believe that assisting is actually performing. Generally, with most professions, there's a period of time where you are being supervised or otherwise, how would you describe it? Like developing the skills to become a full professional. And in those cases, you are still considered to be a professional, but you have to show that you've actually been performing the duties. Now, with a dentist, remember, there are dental assistants, and a dental assistant assists a dentist. And so they're two different knock codes, and you have to be careful with that. But if you actually perform those duties, then it's really going to come down to the officer. Okay? Okay, there you go. That's just fine, Kritika. I understand. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, Yuri, I'm a couple months away from PPR, and at the same time, I'm planning to relocate to another country from the Ukraine to Poland. and I'm waiting for my passport request there. How do I inform IRCC regarding this? And can I send to my passport to Canadian Embassy in Poland, or will I have to come back to Ukraine to do it? No, you through a case-specific inquiry, that's where you send it. Let's shift over here. I'll try not to open up something where the volume is going in the background. But if you go EE, case-specific inquiry, CSE, IRCC, let's see if this pulls it up. Yeah, so it's this link here. This is usually where most people will provide updated information, and I'll post this in the link in the feed here. This is usually where they go to provide it. So you fill in the information here, you explain, you put your information in, you'll have your client ID, you'll have your application number, and contact information, okay? And so that's where you would do that. And when it comes to the passport request, no, you'll be able to submit it to any visa application center that's near you. You just need to update them of the address, and then the instructions will likely then be more applicable to where you're currently living. Okay, but Pasha says, sir, can you please answer my question again? Sorry, but I couldn't hear you earlier because of the double voice. Okay, let's go back for Bapasha here. No unsatisfied customers today. All right, let's see. Although I will be honest, I'm not feeling so good right now. It's interesting when you sit for a long period of time after you've had surgery in your stomach. It doesn't feel so good, and I haven't been able to get up for a little bit, so I'm not feeling so great right now. But I'm gonna plug through. Here. Okay, let's see if we can find Bapasha here. You may have to repost it, my friend. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Bapasha says, sir, good to see you back. Called the CUC the other day, and they said that my file is in Singapore. I got the GCMS 3 months back, and it states that an interview is in the queue. It is to be noted that I received an ITA 2 years back through the New Brunswick PNP. So, sir, now do I call Singapore to find out what's going on or what to be done? Well, Bapasha, you're kind of at their mercy. Ultimately, if they need to have an interview, then the most important thing you can do is make sure that your address and contact information is all up to date, so that if they do send that interview request, you'll be ready to attend. But other than that, there's not a lot you can do. You're at their mercy. It's been a long time. There may be a way, depending on what's transpired and the back and forth that you've had with them. Sometimes if things are just stuck and not moving, we can file what's called a mandamus application in federal court to force IRCC to take action. They can't just sit on your file for years and years without doing anything. So you can file a mandamus application, but that usually is only available if it's been sitting for like an egregious period of time and there's been no movement, no contact, nothing done. Like I'd say if nothing has been done for about 1.5 years, and then maybe that's, then that's a situation where an actual federal court application would be successful. Otherwise, just reaching out, a case-specific inquiry. Usually, there will be an email that you can send through an email address to the Singapore visa office, but it isn't easy. So, case-specific inquiry is usually what you do. All right. Good luck. Okay. Now I'll scroll back here and see if I can figure out where I left off. Okay, I think I might have found it here. Okay, Armando says, can Albanian take a visa, work in Canada, and how can we find it? Thank you. You have to connect with a Canadian employer, Armando, which is not easy. They have to offer you a job and apply for something called a labor market impact assessment, which is proof that there's no Canadian or permanent resident available to do the job. So that's basically how it works. But where you come from is irrelevant. Ultimately, some countries are easier to get the work permit because you have to show that you are established in your country and that you have ties and a reason to go back, because work permits are temporary, but that's basically how it goes. Okay, Arnish says, if I have 1 year Canadian work experience and 0 years of experience else in the world, what should I enter in foreign work experience? Well, the answer is nothing. You will get no points for foreign work experience if you only have 1 year in Canadian. And the reality is, because you can't say it's foreign, so it's there isn't any. Okay. Okay, Parth asked his question again. I'm in post-ITA stage, cleared IELTS July 12th, got ITA on July 24th. While creating the EE profile, I entered my current job as a current job, but now I plan to resign and relieved on July 31st. Can this be a problem, or the visa officer can have problems with this? And after ITA, can I change my current job status? So what I recommend is if you haven't filed your EAPR yet, then you can update everything. Just change it. It's fine. The ITA was granted based on your work history at the time in which the ITA was issued. So it's kind of locked in there, at least from the standpoint of your comprehensive ranking system scores. So when you file your EAPR, you are going to update it. You're going to indicate that you ended work July 31st and that whatever you're doing now, if you changed employers, you're going to enter that information in. But the new information only needs to be entered into your personal history section, right? So you don't need to add it to work history. So just personal history. Okay. Okay. Ansar says 16 years education is compulsory. I'm not quite sure what that means, Ansar. Any education that you're hoping to rely on for express entry has to be assessed through an educational credential assessment agency like WES or IQUIS or ICAS or one of those. Martha says, hi, Mark. Hi, Martha. How are you? Parth says, kindly re-answer my question. Yep, I did. Okay, if someone has a job offer from Canada, Waleed says, what steps she needs to start? If you have a job offer in Canada, I'm going to ask you, Waleed, please provide me with a copy of it via Facebook Messenger, and I'll take a look and make sure it's legitimate. Because if you're asking these questions now, it means that whoever's giving you the job offer is probably not a really great place to work, because they would explain everything to you. Anybody who receives a job offer and is uncertain is either being scammed or the employer is just pretty crappy. So send me a copy of the job offer. Just send it to Facebook Messenger and I'll take a look and make sure it's legit for you. Okay, my friend? And if that's the case, then I'll answer your question. Okay. Okay, Arnesh says, do you have any idea which province is offering PNP after completing masters? I can't say, Arnesh. They change all the time, and it's the various PNPs I just can't. Okay, Martha says, hi, Mark, I sent an email earlier today. Yes, I did, Martha. I did answer your questions in pretty detail regarding proof of funds. And as soon as this is done, then I'll post it on YouTube. Hopefully my computer has room for it. I really have to cull out some of these videos. Okay, and then the next EE Live session, Martha, every Tuesday at noon. Okay, Jazdeep says, hi, Mark, can't wait for Friday consultation. Lots of queries, need your specialized guidance. Jazdeep, I'm looking forward to it too, my friend. Okay. Parth says, I worked part-time and then worked full-time with the same firm, same job duties. They have only given me one reference letter. Now I have 2 employment tabs for this. Can I upload same reference letter for both of them? 100% Parth. That's exactly what you do. Make sure that reference letter indicates your part-time work experience as part-time work experience. You don't want to have a confusing reference letter where you've listed part-time in your work history and full-time, and then the company gives you a letter that just says full-time. Yuri says, Mark, you are the star. Thanks, Yuri. I'm the star that's not feeling so well right now. Okay, Naeem says, get well soon. I'm going to leg this out. I'm just about to the end. Good job. Rosie says, my husband is a U.S. citizen and an architect. Can he work in Canada without a visa through NAFTA? Oh, yeah, Rosie. I've got some massive architectural companies that I do work for. And when they send architects into Canada, we go through NAFTA, or what is soon to be called, if it's ever ratified, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, but now it's the North American Free Trade Agreement. And 100%, Rosie, all your husband needs is a job offer. In other words, an actual letter from the employer. No LMIA, just the letter, and then proof of his professional qualifications. So Rosie, if he has an employer that's lined up, they're not sure what to do, I do tons of NAFTA-based work permits, and I would be delighted to help you guys. Armando says, thank you, you're welcome. Our boss says, I was detained and had a prior visa refusal for the UK. I applied for my EAPR and mentioned about both of the things in the statutory questions. Is that enough? Yes. As long as you mention them, it's not going to harm you in any way. Visa refusals from other countries are irrelevant. They're not going to disqualify you. Good job, Arbaz. Way to go. But Pasha, thanks a lot, sir. It is to tell you that after ITA, my newborn was added, and then this February got a new medical request. Since the first one expired, in between these 2 years, got 2 GCMSs. Okay, makes sense, Bapasha. Yet whenever you have kids, it throws everything off. So it's not surprising that it's taking longer. Shalina says, hi, Mark. I'm on a closed work permit, which is valid for 2 years and just completed 1 year. I still have 1 year remaining. Can I consider this as a job offer or not? Shalina, the actual work permit, and when you've been working in Canada for 1 year and if it's closed, yes, can be considered. It's the third example they give for job offers. So that's the one that fits for you, Shalini. So yes, it can be. But remember, the employer still has to play a part in it. They still have to confirm that they're supporting your permanent residence. Okay, otherwise it's not a job offer. Okay, Lukman says, Lukman's asking goofy questions, and obviously he has, it looks like Trudeau is his image. Lukman, you need to figure things out for yourself. Okay, Martha says, awesome. You're very welcome, my friend. Hamad, need the job offer letter from any AIPP designated employers. Well, you're gonna have to connect with employers. I don't match people with foreign workers. I don't do recruitment. Okay, we're just about at the end here. Parth says, so since I'm resigning on the 31st of July, do I need to tell CIC about that in personal history or the main work history? And I am freelancing with my current job, US-based firm, receive very small amounts of payment. Should I mention it in personal history? Yes, yes, yes to all things Parth. And this will be the last one that I'll end off with. So Parth says, if you're resigning on the 31st and you have not yet submitted your EAPR, then you're going to change your work history to have a work history with an end date, which is your current employment. And then going forward, everything else is going to be listed in your personal history. Even if you were volunteering and weren't getting paid, you're going to list that freelance work in your personal history. Okay. Martha says, awesome. Thanks. I'll wait for the video to be posted. Great. Okay, we're going to end right there. And I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. It was quite a lengthy one, but I'm super happy about the ultimate quality. I think it worked really well. Now, I'm hoping that my computer is going to be able to store this. So those of you who watched live, congratulations. Hopefully I can push this out to YouTube. I want to remind everybody that's tuned in and has been watching faithfully, I'm here to help you in whatever way you need me to. I created that Canadian, and I'll go back here again, just so that you guys can see, and I posted the link already, but I created this Express Entry Complete step-by-step guide to doing it yourself for all of you. And you can see, to enroll in the course, the lifetime access is $497, and you can have access for the rest of your life, basically. And there's also a monthly subscription option of $97 US a month. So there's two options for you. And for those of you faithful, dedicated people that are watching the video right now, I want to let you know about an offer that I extend to everybody who is who's attending and watching these live. And I only show it at the end. So if you click here to Lifetime Access and click on Add Coupon, and then punch in the code EEDIY 50%, and click Apply, it will then drop off 50% off of the price. So for only $248.50 US, you get lifetime access to it. And guys, I've gone through this lots of times before. You can go to this site, which I've included in the link here, or you can just search CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com and it will take you here. And within the course itself, let's see if I can find the information. It's all a little bit different here. You can see that I have individual videos that cover every aspect, from people who know nothing about Express Entry to things you need to do to prepare to be eligible, how to increase your chances, and then completing your profile and finalizing it. And then if you just click on this arrow, you can see I've got a whole nother section all about the EAPR. So no matter at what stage you're at, whether you're just wondering about Express Entry, how it works, whether you are submitting your profile, trying to figure out how to increase your points, whether you've got the ITA and just want to make sure you don't screw it up, and you're filing your EAPR, I've got all of those sections and a special section dedicated just to documents. So all of this is here for you. Completing your biometrics, which is a new one, the passport request, and then a whole big section of specific questions that really are videos that are focused on all the questions you guys are asking me today. So that is it for today. I want to thank all of you guys for being a part of this, for supporting me, for bearing with me as I was away. Join me next week as we talk more about Express Entry. If you have a question that you'd like to have answered, like all of the people that I answered today, send an email to stephanie@stringham.ca, and don't forget to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. And thanks. It was awesome. All right, guys, take care. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at noon, Mountain Standard Time. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off, wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry. Bye.